Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the City Commission hearing number 2. This September 14th, 2020. I have a couple of things I'd like to begin with before we start the meeting. I'll ask you to please stand in place so that we can do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Set this up. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Moritas?
Here.
Vice Mayor Glassman?
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Here.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Here.
Mayor Trentalis?
Here. Thank you. Now, the City of Fort Lauderdale will be hosting its meetings in a virtual format until further notice. The public can listen to and view virtual meetings at fortlauderdale.com/FLTV and on youtube.com/City of Fort Lauderdale, as well as on Comcast Channel 78 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. For those of you who want to speak on an agenda item and have not already signed up to do so, please visit www.fortlauderdale.gov/V as in Victor C meetings in order to sign up. To ensure the same decorum as in our in-person meetings, we ask that you please abide by the following guidelines. Number 1, please refrain from any behavior that is disruptive, distractive, profane, or inhibits the meeting in any way. 2, while you're on the phone waiting for your opportunity to speak, please mute the broadcast on FLTV, YouTube, Comcast, or AT&T if watching simultaneously to avoid delays in the broadcast. I will call upon you when it is your turn to speak, also notify you when your time has expired. City staff has automatically added speakers into the listen-only mode, and you will be unmuted to speak when ready. Once you have completed speaking, you will be muted and may either hang up to exit the meeting or stay connected to listen to the remainder of the meeting. You know about that? Okay. So we have a couple of agenda announcements on page 9. Exhibits 2, 3, and 4 have been changed. Okay. So let's get to do you have any questions so far, members of the commission? So we start out with R1. This is a resolution approving a grant agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration for the runway incursion mitigation project at Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport. Does anyone have any questions on that? Now, would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
You? Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving a grant agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration for runway incursion mitigation at Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport, authorizing the acceptance of grant funds from the Federal Aviation Administration in the amount of up to $1,136,360 and authorizing the city manager to execute the grant agreement and providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Commissioner McKenzie, can you hear us?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas? That was a yes. And Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the resolution is approved. This is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2021 Central Wastewater Region Large User Rate of $2.48 per 1,000 gallons of wastewater treated. I'd like to introduce the resolution.
Introduced.
Call the roll. Any questions?
Yes, I do have a question. I'm sorry. I think keeps muting me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay, great. I do serve on this board, so I just wanted to give you all an update. When you look at it, it looks like they actually have a 10-cent decrease in the user rate that they're paying. But we did have about $16 million of sewer related emergency expenses that are not captured in this year. So I wanted maybe staff to explain a little bit more because the rate will go down this year, but I'm sure it will go up next year. So I just wanted you all to understand it in case other cities are complaining next year when the rate all of a sudden goes up a lot. Chris, is there a staff member you can just give us an overview of this real quick?
There is. She's here in the room with us, Laura Reese. We'll let her explain how it's calculated.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Laura Reese, Budget Director. So this is the Central Region wastewater system, which we pay for. So does the other municipalities, Oakland Park, Wilton Manors. And the great news about this is there's a true up at the end of the year. So if we charge them $248 or $258, based on the actual operating and capital costs that we have for the year, at the end of the year, there's a true up. So and it's based on the number of gallons used. So we're going to be throughout this year charging a rate of $248. And then if we have to spend more than that to operate the system, we'll send them a bill at the end of the year and send ourselves a bill. And if it's less, we'll do a rebate. So the reason the rate went down is likely because the ROI went away. So the ROI was previously charged to this fund as well as to our water sewer fund. And that completely was eliminated mid-year in fiscal year 2020. But to the commissioner's point, if there's cost increases in future years, the actual cost will be split based on the number of gallons of wastewater that are treated in a year.
Okay, thank you, Laura. So that was a good explanation. So the $16 million that we did spend on the sewer break infrastructure improvement, will those cities also help us pay for those costs?
Yes. So there'll be a true up for fiscal year 2020 for those expenses. So what we're looking at right now is the 2021 budget. But for fiscal year 2020, if there are any additional costs that weren't built into the original budget, there'll be a true up. The city pays most of that true up because we're our own largest user, but then the other municipalities will pay based on their fair share of the gallons treated.
Okay, thank you. So we should see that probably next year then.
I don't quite understand that question.
Well, or I guess the other cities we serve will see, they will be billed next year. They haven't, I don't believe they've paid at this point. I just don't want anyone to be surprised when they get the bill from us about that was my understanding, that the sewer breaks, kind of we paid for all of that. And then next year they would be charged maybe a one-time fee, or maybe the rates would be a little bit higher, but it did include all the infrastructure improvements.
So in fiscal year 2020, the existing fiscal year, a big part of how we balanced the break was by stopping ROI mid-year. So that paid for a large portion of the projects. And we also reallocated costs from existing CIPs to the highest priority CIP. So there may be a slight true up at the end of the year, but we won't know that until the books are closed. So the finance folks will, process all the transactions through the end of the fiscal year, and then we'll either send a bill or we'll send a reimbursement based on how the year turns out.
Okay, so maybe they won't get a big surprise bill because of the ROI going away. It might balance each other out. Okay,
Yep.
All right. Thank
I think
you.
Raj wanted to chime in too.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Commissioner Moritas, that this is very standard in this business, the rate adjustment. So it all depends when the books are closed and everything is accounted for. And there are times when the rates increase and there are times when the rates decrease. So this is a standard practice, but nothing is lost. Whatever is, everybody pays for what the expense is. So.
Right. I just remember at one of the board meetings after we had some of the major breaks, all the cities were concerned. How much are we going to have to pay? How much extra? What will be the one time? So I guess they really never had that one time bill to pay for the breaks. Yeah. We incurred it or balanced itself out, like Laura's saying. I do know, I guess next year their contracts end and we renegotiate the rate again. Is it for a couple years? Is that what the new contract will be in 2021?
So Commissioner Moritas, we set the rate each year based on the operating budget that's developed. So what we'll do is we'll look at a 3-year average of the number of gallons used, and we'll look at what the adopted budget is for that fund. And then we'll divide it by, so we'll divide the overall budget that we need to operate that business by the number of gallons used by each municipality, and that's how we estimate how much we need to pay, or how much everybody needs to pay per gallon. So each year you're gonna reset the rate based on the new year's proposed budget.
Each year we reset it. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Mayor, do you have questions?
No, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, very good. Has the resolution been
I
introduced?
still have to read it. And a resolution of the City Commission and the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving setting a rate per 1,000 gallons of wastewater treated for the fiscal year 2021 for all large user wastewater customers of the Central Wastewater Region and providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and the resolution is approved.
Mayor, if I could, point of personal privilege,
Yes.
something very important. It's been weighing on me all day today. Today, we have a birthday in our midst, someone incredibly young. I'm not sure if statutorily she reaches the age of that one needs to be elected to be a city commissioner. So I'd just like to celebrate our birthday, the birthday of Heather Moritas.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. Enjoy being with you all on my birthday. Couldn't imagine any other place to be. I'm not quite 50. Next year, big 50. Yeah, just wait.
Okay, let's move on now.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Not quite 50.
Okay, R3. This is a resolution adopting the final 5-year community investment plan for fiscal years 2021 to 2025 and appropriating funding for fiscal year 2021 community investment plan projects. We have a few people who signed up to speak. Let's go to that. Let's start out with Jerry Bailey, followed by Suzee Bailey, followed by Tricia Collins. Jerry, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Great. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. And you guys?
All right. So we got 3 minutes.
Okay, so commission members, I oppose the budgeting of over $750,000, really any money, toward the planning of proposed changes to Las Olas from the intercoastal to 15th. I've spent almost a year, along with many other people, with Joe Cordino. We had a meeting last October on our bridge in Las Olas, pointing out some of the flaws in his plans that he explained to us. Also had a Zoom meeting with our homeowners association, spreading it out so everybody in the neighborhood that attended could see what was being planned. And a 2-hour walking presentation with not only Joel Cordino, but Commissioner Glassman himself. And as a matter of fact, Commissioner Glassman almost got run over by a car trying to cross the street in that particular walk. So look at 95% of what was presented to us on each occasion and was stated as a starting point has been totally ignored. You know, there's some elements like shade trees that are great, crosswalks that are great, but almost all other aspects of his plans make our neighborhood less safe, and certainly more problematic, such as putting all bikers, walkers, runners, scooters along the north side of Las Olas makes it almost too dangerous for us to even leave or enter our streets. It's already risky enough. When they redid the bridges and they made the wall heights as high as they did, it's almost impossible to see people coming. Walking, running, and even scooters are going faster, and bikers, until you're already out in the intersection. To put everybody on the north side makes it, I mean, look, I'm scared every day when I leave my house that I'm going to hit somebody crossing across, going from east to west or west to east. Removal of the center median or narrowing it, that eliminates the space that we have to wait in our car to turn against traffic entering our aisles. It would back up traffic as well. Kayak launches, where are people going to park? Where are they gonna unload? People stop already in the bike lanes to take pictures and they back up traffic. They're great ideas, but not for a neighborhood. An elevated bike path, really? A steel structure down the middle of Las Olas where the trees are right now? That's for bike lanes. The one thing that this stretch has is really good bike lanes. They're the best on the entire corridor. So why would they want to change that? A single lane roundabout at 15th going from 4 lanes to traffic at the West Bridge? How is that going to work during an evacuation? That makes everything traffic-wise problematic for us. What we do need, we need crosswalks, we need an EMS station, and some beautification, like some shade trees would be absolutely great. One of the most important points is before any work is done to this section of Las Olas, the king tide and stormwater flooding needs to be addressed. Why would we consider pouring millions of dollars into a beautification, any type of beautification, only to tear it up when we have to address those issues? So please spend our money on our basic needs first. Our quality of life in the aisles over the last couple of years has already been negatively impacted by the water main breaks, and waterways smell like a sewer. So now you want to budget over $750,000 for plans on a project that would disrupt our lives for years, only to end up with neighborhoods that are less safe. Look, I'm not somebody that jumps on here for 3 minutes once a year. My wife and I have invested a lot of time in pre-agenda meetings, commission meetings, sitting in front of you commissioners and you, Mayor. My wife and I have also spent countless hours trying to beautify our neighborhood. So it's not like we're just one-time complainers. We are invested in our neighborhood. We live on these aisles, and we're telling you, commissioners that do not live on these aisles, that we do not want this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And let me just say this, Jerry, we really appreciate all the time and effort you have contributed working with the neighbors and trying to beautify the aisles, even to the point where you and your wife worked on the flower arrangements on the bridge. Nurmi Aisle is definitely a very attractive aisle because of that and all your efforts. And I do believe that a lot of opinions have been expressed with regard to what would make Las Olas better. So let us continue to see what has to be said tonight, and certainly going to try to do our best to make it work for everybody. Suzee Bailey, 3 minutes.
Guys, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
I hope you all are well. I'm just suggesting a pause on the Las Olas mobility funding request of the over 700,000 that's requested. According to your website, this project is supposed to enhance safety and mobility for all who live, work, or play on or near Las Olas Boulevard between South Andrews Avenue and A1A. Unfortunately, the proposed plan presented by the Cordino Group last month seemed to forget about the safety and mobility, especially on the aisles portion of their proposed plan. And you guys know I'm always here speaking about safety and health. A few areas of safety concerns that are missing on their plan. There's no mention of a satellite EMS station. The aisles are one of 2 areas in Fort Lauderdale in the red on EMS times. Sometimes are almost 3 to 4 minutes over acceptable times. And there was no mention of an EMS station on their proposed plan. On one meeting with the Cordino Group, two members of our HOA spoke of the EMS times were so bad that they said had they actually had a heart attack, the hospital said they would have died because it was so late. There was also no mention of an emergency evacuation route planning. Here going west, the 4 lanes on Las Olas go down to 2 lanes westbound and eventually to 1 lane at their proposed 5th Avenue roundabout. Then it goes back to either 1 or 2 lanes throughout town. Again, that's really concerning. Flooding issues and infrastructure were not addressed either. There was no mention of the temporary watersheds to house floodwaters, like the ones proposed by the Urban Land Institute, the one about the Heisinger Park. I know Vice Mayor Steve, you know about that one. And many agree infrastructure and flooding issues have to be addressed before this project begins. There was also no mention of blinking crosswalks, the ones my husband were talking about on the Northern Isles bridges, due to the dangerous blind spots. But at least they did put in crosswalks on Los Olas Boulevard between 15th and Riviera, which we've been requesting year after year. Until some of these important safety issues can be addressed and residents and businesses who live along Los Olas have a chance to express their concerns, I request that all funds for planning of this project be put on pause until they can be heard. Thanks, y'all.
Great, thank you. Tricia Halliday, followed by Paul Chettle. Tricia, are you there? Tricia, are you there? She's there.
She is here, but she's on the phone.
She's on the phone.
She presses *9, *6. She should be able to unmute herself.
Tricia, you have to unmute yourself.
*6.
*6. Are you there?
Had it. You just had it. Do it again. There you go.
*6.
She's unmuted.
Unmuted.
You can talk. We'll come back to you, Tricia. Not hearing you. We'll come back to you. Are you there? I'm hearing a lot of snap, crackle, pop, but I'm not hearing.
She came off of, yeah, she was unmuted and that last *6 just muted her phone again. So it's showing on our end that she's muted herself.
All right, we'll go back to you. Paul Chettle, are you there? Paul?
Paul is there. He's on the phone as well.
*6.
Star
*6.
six. Yes, we can hear.
Unmuted, excellent, unmuted. So Mayor, thank you, and it was the third attempt to get that, so it may be the same thing with Tricia.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so Mayor, I was pleased to see your email today regarding the waterway testing. And I'm wondering if you're going to interrupt me and say anything, or if you want me to speak on CIP, or do you want me to speak on PH8 regarding waterway testing?
Well, we're on R3, so why don't you speak on that?
R3 is the CIP, and you announced today in an email that you have launched a new waterway testing and cleanup approach.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to pull teeth, but nobody knows about the plan. So I was thinking you wanted to tell us about the plan.
This is your time to speak.
Okay.
If you want to say thank you, I'm okay with that, and you can conclude your remarks. No, but seriously,
Mayor,
this is your time.
Mayor Trent, I am being serious, and I was looking for you to interrupt me, and I would have been happy to be interrupted with you telling us more about the plan that you have launched. And I was hoping that you were going to tell us that Miami Waterkeepers were selected, and they're going to do weekly testing at 10 locations at a site to be determined between them and the city, and that it was going to be a 1 year, and we were going to have public transparency and disclosure on the waterway testing. But I didn't want to preempt you saying that. So you're the one in the middle of the campaign. It was up to you. So I would like you to do that. If you can please do that. I support that idea. But we don't have any information in the public domain, which is why, again, I was waiting for you. So thank you if you've done that, and can you give us some details? Thank you.
Now I cannot give you any details. I can just tell you that what you read is what we have until now, and continuing to move forward in an effort to make sure that our waterways are clean and safe and hospitable to marine life. So let's go back to Tricia Halliday. Tricia, are you there? Tricia?
She's unmuted and we're hearing
Yeah,
her.
we hear you, Tricia. Can you
I
hear
can
us?
Just don't hear voice. Nothing.
Mayor,
Yes.
while we're waiting, I'm sorry.
Could you and Commissioner Sorensen give us a little,
Yes.
some feedback on the?
Well, Mayor, what I'd like to say, and my colleague on the Las Olas Mobility Working Group, Commissioner Sorensen, if I speak out of turn, just correct me, or even Chris, but to those that are objecting to that line item in the CIP, what I would say is we need that in the CIP. It's a placeholder for once we do come to an agreement on what the plan is. I know there are people that are not happy with the plan, and we're going to flesh that out and continue to meet until we are happy. But to say to remove that from the CIP would then handcuff us for an entire 12 months from October of this year till all the way through next September without us being able to maneuver at all. So yes, while I believe we're not going to be moving maybe as fast as we thought we would and coming up with something that the entire commission would approve by the end of this year, that's okay. And we would be meeting with no funds secured for when we actually did come up for an agreement. So I think we need to really keep the funds in there as the city manager has. If I'm saying something out of turn, by all means, Commissioner Sorensen and Chris, please correct me. Thank you.
You want to add anything, Commissioner Sorensen, or is that?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with the Vice Mayor. The plan that we have right now as of September 14th, 2020 is just a plan. This is part of the ongoing development and feedback that Cordino Group is getting from others and we're getting. And so we're going to continue to shape this and grow this and make this right and move forward. So I think it's important to, very important to invest in, you know, one of the crown jewels of our city. So I think continue to engage, continue to work with us and communicate with us and Cordino. And I think we're going to get to a place that really works well. Mayor?
Great. Okay. Just in response to Mr. Chettle, who wanted me to talk a little bit about water testing and where our city is going. As nothing has really changed from the last disclosure of information, other than to just repeat the fact that we are still in the process of cleaning the George English Park Lake and as well as the Tarpon River. Those plans are underway. We cannot engage a contractor until something goes out to bid. This budget that we now have pending before us includes the type of testing that you have that you described, Mr. Chettle, is to say monthly testing per year. We're allocating a certain dollar figure. Keep in mind that when we talk about the next budget, we're talking about 2 weeks from now. The budget begins October 1st, so we're going to put out the bid, the contract, and your preferred contractor may in fact be the one selected. Depends on the process. You know, as government, we must put these things out for bid. So we're not talking months from now. We're talking days and maybe just a few weeks from now. So we're on it. We're going to get this done because the commitment of this commission is to try to reverse decades of practices that have deteriorated our waterways, and we are determined to bring life back to our water system. So, someone like to introduce the resolution? No, we're done. We're done. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Would you like to read the resolution?
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, adopting the final 5-year community investment plan for the period beginning October 1, 2020 and ending September 30, 2025, appropriating the portion of the community investment plan for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020 and ending September 30, 2021, and reappropriating the unspent community investment plan project balances at the end of fiscal year 2020 for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020 and ending September 30, 2021, and providing an effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman.
Sorry, yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trent House.
Yes, and the resolution is now approved. We move on to public hearings. This is, move on to PH1. This is the public hearing on the stormwater program management assessment. Purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the city's stormwater program management assessment for fiscal year 2021. The public hearing is now open. The manager will now present the stormwater program management assessment report. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the stormwater program management assessment rate be equal to the estimated cost paid by the city to operate the stormwater management program within the assessment area for fiscal year 2021. The fiscal year 2021 stormwater program management assessment will generate approximately $28,813,611.28 in revenue. This concludes my report.
Okay, this is the time for anyone in the public to speak or to ask any questions about the stormwater program management assessment. There are several people who have signed up to speak. I'll announce them 3 at a time so people can be prepared to come on. We start out with Francesca Giordano, followed by Raphael Pellizzeri, followed by Melinda Bowker. It's Francesca. Francesca?
We don't see her.
She's not there.
Raphael is unmuted.
Raphael, you're there.
Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me speak. I reviewed the stormwater proposal, and I live in Melrose, and it is very unfair for a single-family resident that lives in Melrose to pay the same price for stormwater that a house in Rio Vista or on the beach that is actually incurring more of the damage to the stormwater program. It seems like it's being built, while it's trying to be built fairly throughout the whole city of Fort Lauderdale. This should have been zoned to the different communities. The beach actually should have a higher cost. So should the residences and the buildings that are structured that have waterway access or are near waterway access. I'm completely landlocked. I'm probably a mile and a half, 2 miles from actually getting into a canal or anything. Why should I have to have my taxes, raised up? And that's my only question on this. Why didn't you guys zone this out into specific zones similar to the way they did the parking for the residency, which has a zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3? You could have done that as a zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3, and then broke it down to the different types of structures. And that's my only issue, is that it's very unfair to the working class, the working poor, as I like to say, from to the very wealthy that live on these $2 million condos, $5 million houses. They could pay a higher cost per their property, but for us, it becomes we're watching every penny, and I don't think it's a fair system, and that's really where my commentary comes with.
All right, thank you. Let me just explain a little bit about this project. This project isn't just about floodwaters that come from rising sea level. This has to do with stormwater. So when it rains, it impacts homes not just that are on canals and waterways, it also impacts significantly homes that are landlocked and that do not have drainage systems. We have identified a number of such adaptation action areas throughout the city, and this project just begins the process of trying to find ways to eliminate stormwater collection that takes place. And the ones we've identified are as follows: Duras, Dorsey Riverbend, Edgewood, Progresso Village, River Oaks, Victoria Park, as well as the Southeast Isles in the Las Olas Boulevard area, as well as Rio Vista. some or all of these areas are not impacted by proximity to canals. So I just don't want people to think like we're just addressing people who suffer from rising tides due to king tides and other tidal action that impacts our community. This is stretched across the city, and this just is the beginning of a project that's going forward. So while we may not be working on your neighborhood today, chances are we will ultimately be getting to your neighborhood at some point. It's just we can't do it all at once. So I hope that helps explain a little bit about how this process works and how the city is moving forward. So,
So Mayor,
one sec. Yes, go ahead.
since we're on Melrose, and that was the topic, I've been getting lots of calls, letters, and emails from Melrose residents saying that they're not even on the drawing boards for the master plan, and they say something was done prior to them being annexed into the city to address their stormwater issues. So there's another lady who sent a letter addressed to you and CC'd all of us that wanted to have that letter read by you into the record tonight. And I mentioned this last meeting. I have a copy on my desk. Her name is Mrs. Hall. Maybe she's one of the speakers. I don't know.
I've got a copy on my desk too downstairs I could run down and get.
I think it's important because she has been trying to reach you, Mr. City Manager, to no avail. That's what she said. I have spoke to her several times at length, along with other people who are calling, especially since the trip notice went out. Trip notice with the stormwater fee. So I mean, is this the time for them to express themselves? I mean, how do we get information back to them so that they're at least satisfied? I know you mentioned 7 projects in 7 different neighborhoods, but Melrose is not mentioned. Melrose Manor is not mentioned. I'm sure there's many other neighborhoods, but these folks have been reaching out to us about the stormwater, these fees.
Well, Commissioner, I did not mention Melrose, and I didn't mention the other 40 neighborhoods either, because there's only so much that we can do at one time without bankrupting the community.
I get that. I just want them to have an opportunity to speak into the record, or since they addressed a letter to all of us.
So let's get back to that. We'll move forward, but we will get back, trying to retrieve that correspondence, and we'll get back to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, I was just handed a note. This goes back to the previous item. And this responds to Mr. Chettle's statement. I don't know if Mr. Chettle, you're still on the meeting, but I've been informed that staff has now been working with Miami Waterkeepers as of today to nail down the particular scope of the project. It's in progress, and we're looking to start with them or others by October 1st. So that's 2 weeks from now. So we're on track, moving forward, aggressively to undertake the kind of commitment that you've been recommending to the city. Just want to bring that to everyone's attention. Okay, Melinda Boker, followed by Brian Donaldson, followed by James Akers. Is Melinda there? Okay. Brian Donaldson, are you on the line?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. I'm also speaking this evening as a resident of paying property taxes for 2 properties in Fort Lauderdale. I'm also the president of the Birch Park Beach Finger Streets Homeowners Association. And I'm also addressing you as your current chairman of the Budget Advisory Board. The whole discussion on stormwater has been going on ever since I was appointed to BAB, right after all of you were elected in the spring of 2018. At the June 2018 meeting, the BAB voted, after hearing a presentation from Stantec, that we needed to move forward and increase funding for stormwater infrastructure. At that meeting, we had voted to adapt the TRIP methodology, and then later we adapted or suggested, as you have approved, the recommendation of doing a hybrid in this new bond issuance. I just wanted to address one of the things that just came up from another speaker in regards to location. This, as the mayor just mentioned, is a program for the first $200 million of bonding, which we anticipate needs to be done in every 4 years or 5 years increments over the next 10, 15, 20 years, as the infrastructures have not been addressed in the past. It was interesting in reading the minutes from that first meeting that I attended in June of 2018. And in that was a recommendation by the current city manager, the prior city manager, stating to BAB that he was not in a situation where he would suggest to the new commission of revoking the $20 million of ROI, and he wanted to continue to take that out of the water sewer fund. So I commend this current commission in sticking to what you had said that you were going to do when you took your oath of office, and that was to address the funding for infrastructure. We've eliminated the ROI. We now have in front of us tonight a proposal to put into effect the funding to secure additional stormwater projects. Yes, there's only limited number of neighborhoods addressed in this first 200 million, but we will get to the additional neighborhoods. And to offset the comment, is it fair for me to pay for something? We are a community, and some of us do not have children, but yet we still pay for schools. We still pay for parks. We can't, as a community, look at only one neighborhood in isolation. And all of us have drainage issues regardless of where we're at. And as the mayor said, it's not just about rising sea levels. And one last note, all of us as residents of Fort Lauderdale have had the advantage of a very low ad valorem rate over the last 14 years. We only have a rate of 4.11. If my same house was valued at the same rate and I lived at Oakland Park, which has a rate of 5.89, my tax bill, which is $23,000 and change this year, would be over $26,000 just for moving a few miles over to Oakland Park. Wilton Manors also has a 5.9. So to put it in perspective, as a city of Fort Lauderdale, the total revenue we get from property taxes is 162 million of our $845 million budget. But if we adapted the ad valorem rate of Wilton Manors or Oakland Park, the general fund would get an additional $67 million. So we as taxpayers of Fort Lauderdale are getting a great value for the dollar at only 4.11 versus the cities adjacent to us. And on that, I just want to make sure that all of you as commission continue to support the infrastructure needs of the city and that you vote to approve this stormwater rate. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brian. Is James Akers there?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Followed by Daphne Jones. Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. Yes. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, my name is James Akers. I'm a commercial real estate appraiser. And I'm here as an agent for a taxpayer, but I also want to present some more general questions that kind of stemmed out of taking a look at this property. So this is relative to the stormwater assessment that is done on an acreage basis for commercial properties. And I don't know if I have the exact figures in front of me, but effectively for an improved property, there is in addition to the TRIP assessment, there is a $2,273 per acre assessment for improved properties and about $567 for vacant. The particular property that in question, and I just really wanted to have this on the record because it's a little unclear as to what the appeal process is and the deadlines, is the Lauder Lakes Mobile Home Community at 3001 Southwest 18th Terrace. And where this property kind of falls through the cracks, and I'll preface this by saying, I spoke to Jason Snifeld from Public Works, who I believe is the stormwater, I'm not sure his exact title. He was very helpful, provided a lot of information, was very responsive. That being said, we weren't able to come to, he couldn't get the exact determinations on a lot of these things because I think they kind of came out of the blue a little bit. But for the property in question, it's a 23.3 acre property that has 2 old borrow pits on it that are currently lakes. So on this particular property, about 10.7 acres of the 23.3 are lakes. And in reviewing the GIS, the way that you have classified privately held submerged land, they are not currently having this $2,273 per acre charge to submerged land, which makes sense because they would be accepting stormwater and don't have any real benefit from this program. But on properties where you have what is referred to sometimes as a split land line, like this, the property in question, which has an upland portion and a submerged under the same tax ID number, the way the system has been set up, the entire 23.31 acres is assessed as an improved property rather than identifying the separate land line, which is in the tax rolls, and discounting that and not having any type of assessment on it. So for example, on this property, that makes about a $24,000 a year business difference between what the non-ad valorem assessment would be if you did the entire property or if you excluded these lakes. Now, there's not a lot of properties that are like this, but I identified maybe 30 or 40 of them with Jason. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention that there are properties such as this. I'd like to see those corrected before the roll is finalized, although I don't really expect that to happen. I would at least like, some assurance that, these will be corrected in the foreseeable future. With regard to the appeal process, it was a little unclear reading the ordinance if this was somehow tied into the Value Adjustment Board relative to appeals. It looks to be a separate process that the city maintains. There's no deadlines that are stated in there other than they have to respond within 4 months and not more than a year. So that's a little unclear as to whether someone who wanted to dispute the classification of their land relative to these assessments would have to do that through the VAB, directly through the city, if they would have to meet the September 18th deadline, which is this Friday. So that was a little unclear, and I would ask that that be addressed. And then finally, I think that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Make it quick because you're past 4 minutes.
Sure, just one quick thing. There are some additional properties that have, again, they have split land lines where they have 2 different uses on the same property. Some of them are ones that lie east of the coastal construction line. Those probably shouldn't be, wouldn't be the same as an improved property for this relative to the benefit that they would receive, things of that nature. The marinas probably being some of the similar ones. So I would just ask that you take a look at those, and I wanted to memorialize that for this specific property, and I appreciate it.
And I think as this process goes forward, this is just the beginning of a very long-term process, and this approach to assessing properties is new to the city, and I'm sure there'll be nuances that we would have to adjust whatever formula we currently are using. So we appreciate the patience of the community going forward, but at the same time, this commission is committed to addressing the stormwater needs of this city, which have been neglected for too long. And with this assessment, we hopefully will get started and get our city moving forward. Thank you. Daphne Jones, followed by Daniel Emmett.
Mayor, real quick, I think you just hit it on the head. It's the formula that people are not comfortable with. It's not so much they don't want to pay. They're just saying that they don't think it's the right formula. So even in the case you just heard, and the next case from Mrs. Jones shows the disparity in how it's being formulated. And even when you go to Melrose, they're just saying, I don't mind paying, but why am I paying this much? So I think we have to go back and address the formula.
Daphne, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity. I agree with Commissioner McKenzie regarding the methodology has a lot of problems, but in retrospect, I want to talk about our individual situation. We received our trim notice and we noticed immediately that it was about $72,534 more than what we had paid in the past. As we reviewed the city's proposed changes to the stormwater fees and how the municipality intended on implementing it, it brought additional concerns. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Keep going.
It brought additional concerns. Our situation is sort of unique because we're the owner of an affordable housing community. Regal Trace is a low-income housing tax credit property providing housing to individuals at 60% or lower of medium income. We also have assisted home units, along with 25% of our tenants are Section 8 vouchers. Currently, we're paying about $45,000 a month on water and sewer. Our rents are restricted by Florida Housing Finance Corporation. And even though expenses continue to rise, we cannot offset those increases with increasing the rental amounts because our rents are controlled by Florida Housing. Unlike any other market property, they can offset those type of expenses by increasing their rents. In fact, our rents do decrease when there are changes in the utility formula. We object or oppose this additional fee methodology. We believe that the analysis that incorporates the gross square footage of parcels and trip generation creates an unfair, undue hardship for properties such as Regal Trace and other tax credit properties that are not owned by governmental agencies. In my investigation, I determined that the City of Fort Lauderdale Housing Authority basically provides the same type of housing as we do, but yet they're not paying this storm assessment. And I understand that's a part of legislation, but they don't have to pay that. Whereas Regal Trace would be paying it, even though we are dealing with the same type of tenants. So instead of building sticks and bricks, we have been set back by additional burdens on the property through this assessment.
Okay.
The disparity is even greater because of the methodology that they're using. It incorporates gross square footage of parcel, which creates an unintended consequence by providing a disparate treatment. For example, Regal Trace has about 27.82 acres. $63,000 of our bill is as a result of the acreage fee.
Okay, but Daphne, your time is up now, so I think we've understood your point, and I know staff has been listening. Like I said, it's not a perfect science here. We are still trying to understand the best methodology going forward, and I want the listening public to understand that while this assessment is on the tax bill, you're not also being assessed on your water bill. This was transferred from the monthly amount that's paid to a one-time charge on the tax bill. So there's no double assessment here. And that's important for people to know. Some people like to pay it, a smaller amount every month versus one lump sum at the tax bill. But that was what was decided this go around. It may be changed next time. But I don't want people to think that people are being double charged, but water bill and on the tax bill. Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, Mayor, I think, again, you kind of hit it, and then you didn't hit it when you just came back with that statement, because no one's talking about double dipping. What? For example, let's use Mrs. Jones' example.
Okay.
She's getting the acreage, she's getting the trips, but she may have the same amount of units as a smaller acreage, but because she has all the acreage, is where she's getting the additional money. So she may have 460 units, just like the building across the street, 613. I'm just using that as an example, not saying they have those units. But because she has more acreage, and she sent a lengthy letter to all of us. So if you're saying we're not perfect with our calculations or our formulation, and even with the other letters that came to us, is there someone on staff that will be assessing, addressing these issues, and getting back to those folks before we move this item forward? I'm sure we're going to move it forward, but the question still is out there. If I think that my calculation is wrong, what is my process to contest that? Because you look at her example, it's perfect because they have all that acreage, but they were the first ones 20 something years ago to do an affordable project. So it wasn't vertical back then, it was more widespread on acreage, but it's equivalent to a tower somewhere.
Alan, is there an appeal process? So what is?
There is a process. I'm trying to get the specifics on it now because this ordinance was passed quite a while ago. But there is a process, and I presume
We hired
would work,
Stantec
yeah.
to do almost this parcel by parcel walkthrough. Kyle's on the call if we want to hear from Stantec on how we did that work, or if we want to wait on the city attorney to tell us what the appeal process is, we can do that too.
You can go ahead.
So,
all right, I think your question, Commissioner, is well taken, and I'm not sure I'm in a position right now to answer it properly
because, for example, we got at least 3 letters, 3 that we all can say we got, right?
we got more than 3 letters.
Yeah, but I'm using the 3 as an example, 3 that we all can attest to today. Who's going to take those letters and address them? Or are we just going to pass this ordinance and then it falls on deaf ears? I mean, we don't run the day-to-day operations. We're just the policymakers. But if we're saying, and you're saying it too, that it's not perfect, we're going to look at it. At what point do we come back to the public? Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Public, we calculated it wrong, or we're going to look at adjusting certain things. When does that happen?
Well, I think, we've been, as you know, we've been talking about methodologies for making stormwater assessments for many, many months. Stantec has come before the commission, conference meetings. Public has been outreach to the public on multiple occasions. And everywhere along the way, there have been objections to the methodology. So the methodology was tweaked, and then again there were objections, and it was changed again, and there were objections. I can tell you right now that I don't think it's a perfect approach, but I don't think we've been able to achieve perfection. We've just been trying to achieve functionality here in order to be able to begin the process to secure sufficient funds to cover the bond in order to be able to move forward with the project. I think on a case-by-case basis, there should be a method of appeal. And I think that this first year will be a learning process for all of us in order to see how we can better fashion the formula that we're now using. This formula is not the same formula we started out with, but this is actually much better than what we started out with. So
it's much better, but it's not fair and equitable. Is what people are saying.
I'm not disagreeing that it's not fair or equitable to everybody, but it's fair and equitable to as many people as you can accommodate, considering there's no perfect system, because we have so many.
If we did units, right? Let's say units. Everybody that owns a unit, right, gets assessed. Then I think it's pretty much fair. But when we do trips, we do acreage, we do all the other things we're considering, you may have the same apple, but you're being charged like you got oranges and peaches now,
Well,
in addition to.
Well, I think we all
This
know
should just be units.
it's a hybrid approach because if you did just units, you're over assessing people. And if you did just acreage, you're over assessing people. Trying to balance it out in a way. We've had these discussions multiple times in our meetings. And I understand how people are just now speaking up because it's the first time they're seeing this item on their tax bill. But I think we all understand as public officials that we need to continue to respond to the folks in our community. And I think these will be addressed on a case-by-case basis. But tonight we need to move forward, at least to begin the process, start to collect the money that we need to pay our bond, and then see how we can try to reevaluate our formula in order to make it more fair than even it is tonight.
Okay.
So I think your point is well taken. Okay, Daniel Allen, are you there? Daniel?
He's here.
Is he there?
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Okay, great. You have 3 minutes, sir. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners. Pastor Daniel Amich. I do hope that I put my request in the proper place. I'm the pastor from the church that sits in 1820 Northeast 17th Way. And I'm speaking about the non-ad valorem assessment and that we receive. They receive mail. It was addressed a mail to our state headquarters that holds the legal title. And this afternoon, they communicated with me and the local pastor in the congregation about this assessment that you have on our property, almost $3,600. We have not been paying anything because we're a tax exempt church. So I would like to come on the record and say that I opposed for our church to be taxed in that way.
Okay.
Thank you very much. If you have any questions, and I mentioned, I do hope that I place my request in the proper order in the agenda that I'm referring to. I know that there's District 1, 2, 3, or 4. I don't know where our church sits. That's why I gave the address.
You picked the right time to speak on the issue.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Okay, I have no one else to sign up to speak.
Mayor, Elsie Hall had signed up for PH4 and I believe she wanted to speak on PH1. And I think she is on the line. She just signed up for the wrong item.
Is Elsie there? Elsie?
Yes, this is Elsie Hall. Good evening.
Well, Elsie, good evening. Well, yes, it is evening. Yes.
Commissioners and Mayor, I'm speaking on behalf of the elderly here in Fort Lauderdale. We live in Melrose, and we are the elderly in our 70s, 80s, and 90s. And we believe PH4 will create a disastrous economic crisis for the elderly homeowners throughout this city area here. I'm in my 70s and I have a heart condition which requires me to have medication at all times 24/7. I have a monthly income of $764. Most of the elderly are in worse shape than I am and have less income. Some are in such incapacitated state that they don't even have a clue as to the disaster you're planning to impose on us. We are opposed to the assessment of PH4 on our tax bill. Our income is fixed. It is sad that we are already choosing between food, medication, and a house to live in the middle of a pandemic. We've been sacrificing beyond our ability to pay the $14 on our water bill. And for you to increase it and ask us to pay it again in a lump sum annually is outrageous and sad. We are your parents and grandparents. You cannot suggest we pay it in installments. We don't have the means to do that. This is a bad idea. Please reconsider what you're about to do. Some of these elderly are bedridden and have to be assisted by means of iron lifts to turn them in bed. Others are in chemotherapy and other issues. We cannot afford stormwater assessment on our tax bill. Why on earth would you pay a consultant to come up with such a disastrous attack against the elderly throughout the city to take our homes? This is just an acute 20th century version of the Boston Tea Party. That's how we look at it. Look at the long food lines out there and check the faces. They are your parents and grandparents trying to get food. The elderly are afraid that they are now going to lose their homes if it gets on the tax bill and they can't afford to pay it.
Okay.
An elderly lady called me just the other day. Her husband has Alzheimer's. Her adult son has Parkinson. She's an elderly woman. Her roof is leaking, and she wants to know where can she get help to fix it. I have no homeowners insurance, no cable, no internet service or social media access.
Okay,
Now,
Elsie, thank you. The 3 minutes is up. I just want to ask you a question if I may, so please stay on the line. You wrote us a letter a couple of weeks ago, and you indicate in your letter that you were being charged $14 per month, and now we're adding $90 a month to that. Is that accurate?
I have been paying per month $14.
Yes,
and now with the additional on it, it's an additional $90 that's gone onto that to make it up to $258.26. Now I have a rent.
Wait. So
I have rental next door that is empty for more than a year. And what you have actually asked me to do is to pay $517 out of $764 in 2 months. This can't work, and a lot of the people in my area here have the same predicament. You got to do something about that. Are you being prepared now to handle the amount of homeless elderly that you're going to have with this assessment on the tax bill?
Elsie, if we're
Yes.
gonna have a conversation, you have to allow me to speak too, okay? So I'm asking you a question. I want to see if I understand your letter correctly. You said that we were charging you $14 per month, and that now we added another $90 per month on your bill. Is
No, you added up the $14 per year, add $90 to that, and you get $258. So
Okay,
if you do the math, find out that that is exactly what has happened, and the people can't afford to pay it because a lot of us have mortgage the house paid.
Elsie, we're trying to understand what you're saying. So your bill is $258 per year, which is $20 a month?
No, what is going to go on the tax bill that you want to come up with in November is $258.
That's $20 a month.
Yes, and we have already paid the 2020 stormwater up to this stage. So this is what we don't have the money set aside for that, because out of our small income, because it's Social Security we live on, and out of that we've been forced to pay $14 per month because we do not have flooding.
Okay,
Or
so the
other
$14
problem here.
$14 a month is stopped, and that this $258 is going forward. It's not to pay for past months, it's to pay for the next 12 months. So you have to pay twice. Wait, you can't keep interrupting me, Elsie, because I'm trying to explain to the people who are listening to this meeting that I want to make sure that people understand all the facts. So the $14 a month actually went from 14 a month to 20 a month. So we're essentially asking you to pay $6 more per month, as opposed to what you said in here, $90 per month. So it may come to a total of $90 for the year that we're increasing. That would be 6 times 12 is actually 72. My math is correct.
And
So
what I'm trying to say to you is that the taxes is paid in arrears. And if the taxes is paid in arrears, why are we being forced to pay stormwater in advance? Because what we're going to be paying in November is what we owed from December of last year to November of this year.
no, that's
And
not.
you've already collected the stormwater from us.
Elsie, I just explained to you that is not correct. This is not a tax. Taxes are paid in arrears. This is not a tax. This is a stormwater assessment, which is paid going forward, not going backwards. So just to let you know.
In a pandemic, we are unable to pay this. And since it comes on the tax bill, if it's not paid, what the elderly are afraid of, their houses are going to be confiscated.
Your house will not be confiscated, and we'll be happy to work with you to make a payment plan to pay this.
No, that is the problem. We don't have the extra money. Commissioner, tell me, if you get $764, you have to set aside a little to pay your sewer, your water, your electricity. My electricity is approximately $200 per month out of $764. Now, how am I going to pay for $258 in 2 months? Where is it going to come from? I won't have that money.
Is that electric bill including rental? Is that electric bill including the rental apartment you have?
No, it is empty for more than a year. And the problem is people don't have jobs, so they can't get it. And I'm not the only one, because across the street from me is another one that is locked up there. People don't have jobs to rent them. And if we get them rented and the people go in and say, well, they are unable to pay the rent, we are not allowed to evict them. You see? So this is where it comes. Now, last year, my income was $759. The only increase I had on it in January on my Social Security is $5. And that's why it is $764. Now I set a little aside every month.
Take your increase. I'm gonna, after the meeting, we'll have someone follow up with you, and we'll see what we can do to help you out, okay? We gotta move forward with the meeting. But,
what happens to the thousands of other elderly who are in the same or worse?
So thank you so much, Elsie. I appreciate it. Thank you. Has anyone else signed up to speak tonight? Okay, do I hear a motion to close public hearing? Do I hear a motion to close public hearing? Are we still on?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Let's call the roll to close public hearing.
Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas.
Just raise your.
Yes, sorry.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes,
right.
vote is now closed. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
A resolution of the City Commission and City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida relating to the provision of the stormwater management program assessments in the City of Fort Lauderdale, imposing stormwater management program assessments against assessed properties located in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving the assessment role, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
No.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. The final stormwater program management assessment rate will now be equal to the estimated cost paid by the city to operate the stormwater management program utilities within the assessment area as provided in the resolution approving the stormwater management assessment. That resolution is now passed. Thank you.
Mayor, just for the people that were listening, do we want to say publicly what the appeal process is, just so it's out there?
Yeah, it's not, it's basically the opportunity for those to get an adjustment, either of the category or the rate based upon the property characterization or size. It's an application that's internal, that's made through Public Works in a specified form to the city manager. And
So
obviously,
contact the city manager's office to get the appropriate form to file an appeal. And so please remember that. Please contact the city manager's office to get the form to see if there's an opportunity for you to appeal the stormwater assessment.
and the process is laid forth in Ordinance C 20-18. There's a section entitled 28-199 that sets forth the whole procedure for the adjustment to be requested and the standards by which.
Okay.
And the phone number for the city manager's office is?
954-828-5959. I don't call myself very often. 5959.
Thank you.
And Commissioner McKenzie voted against this, but I interpret that vote not so much on his being against stormwater management, but on the methodology. So I think everyone is committed to making stormwater improvements to our community. But I certainly understand how there's a dispute over that. On to PH2, Lauderdale Isles Water Management District Assessment. This is a public hearing on the Lauderdale Isles Water Management District non-ad valorem assessment and budget. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the Lauderdale Isles Water Management District non-ad valorem assessment and budget for the fiscal year 2021. The public hearing is now open. The city manager will now present the Lauderdale Isles Water Management District non-ad valorem assessment and budget. City manager.
Mr. Mayor, the Lauderdale Isles Water Improvement District assesses the residents of this special district to address water quality issues. At the district's March 9, 2020 meeting, the board voted to continue levying an assessment of $15 per parcel for fiscal year 2021, which will generate $8,265. The total budget for the district was adopted by the board at $109,765. This concludes my report.
Thank you. This is the time for anyone in the public to speak or ask any questions about the Lauderdale Isles Water Management District non-ad valorem assessment budget. See, no one has signed up to speak. Do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
A resolution in the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, levying a non-ad valorem special assessment for fiscal year 2021 on behalf of the Lauderdale Isles Water Management District and approving the budget for the district. Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and the item is now approved. That is, so now the final Lauderdale Isles Water Management ad valorem, non-ad valorem assessment fiscal year 2021 will be $15 per parcel within the district. Move on to PH3. This is the public hearing on the nuisance abatement assessment. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the city's nuisance abatement special assessment for fiscal year 2021. Public hearing is now open. City manager will now present the nuisance abatement assessment report.
The nuisance abatement assessment rate will be equal to the actual cost paid by the city to abate the nuisance. The assessment represents 100% cost recovery of the expenses made by the city to abate the identified nuisance. The fiscal year 2021 nuisance abatement assessment will generate $26,885.10 in revenue. This concludes my report.
Okay, no one is signed up to speak. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Seconded, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
No.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, this is to close public hearing, Commissioner. Okay, so the.
So she has to close it, and I'm voting no against the item.
Well, we haven't got there yet. So you're changing your vote?
Change my vote for the record to close the public hearing, yes.
So the final nuisance abatement assessment rate will be equal to the actual cost paid by the city to abate the nuisance for each business and residential property as provided in the resolution approving the nuisance abatement assessment. Someone like to introduce the resolution for the fiscal year 2021? Introduce. McKenzie?
No.
The public hearing is now open. The city manager will now present the utility undergrounding assessment report. Is that any better?
Better.
A little better. I think whatever you're speaking into needs to be closer to you. That's what it seems like. Because when you lean forward, it sounded better.
Mic is in the ceiling.
Can you let
Stand up and grab it.
Get on the table.
Mic when they were dangling in front of my face.
You're young. You're not as young as Heather, but you're young.
He needs a senior citizen discount for the stormwater. I'm just kidding.
Can't sing opera anymore, okay? Okay, Mr. City Manager.
The utility undergrounding assessment rate will be equal to the actual cost paid by the city for the undergrounding of overhead utilities within the assessment area. The fiscal year 2021 assessment represents the estimated debt service payment for a 30-year special obligation bond with net proceeds of $7.7 million. The assessment amount is $1,069.44 per year per equivalent building unit. The fiscal year 2021 utility undergrounding assessment will equal $331,526.40. This concludes my report.
Now, this is just with regard to each individual property that's assessed. It's not citywide.
Correct, the special district itself.
Yeah. Chris, I have a question.
Okay.
This is for basically, Las Olas Isles for that undergrounding project. As we know, this has been going on for more than 8 years now. And I just want to know if we're getting closer to reality, how the other neighborhoods are doing. Project manager, I think we did allocate funds for a project manager at a recent commission meeting. Is that person on board, up to speed? How are we doing generally with regards to the undergrounding project for the neighborhoods that have been paying for quite a while now? I just want to get an update on that.
Turn to the Public Works Director.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. Keeping my fingers crossed, we have prepared the bids and to go out for Las Olas Isles. And this afternoon, I made the last change on a set of plans that were showing the boxes and the transformers at the wrong locations. This was because FPL had to change their plans, but we are ready to roll out our bid for Las Olas Isles, and And then once this is done and once this is released, we are going to start out with all the other aisles along the same line as the ordinance says. So we are as close as we can get, and hopefully the bids are going to be out by next week.
So we are moving forward with all of the other neighborhoods that have been paying and voting and that we've been sort of taking a long time to deal with, whether it's Idlewild, Riviera, et cetera, Seven Isles, all of them. We're moving forward.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I'm only aware of the Las Olas Isles that is complete. I know that there are other aisles, and I'm not too sure if the process is complete. But what I do want to do is that because this has been going on for 10 years and there were many issues, and we had to just rewrite the entire specifications and drawings, and we just want to roll out this first, and then I'm going to approach each and every aisle separately, and then we will start drawing up the plans such that we do not make the same mistakes and the errors that so you can essentially take this as a sort of a template that we are trying to develop. And once that is there, then I think it should be relatively quick.
Okay, excellent. No, I appreciate that. I just, again, I want to reiterate that I've got at least 3 other groups of streets and neighbors that are waiting patiently to, get this going. So I'm just hoping that once we get this template and once the Las Olas Isles is moving along and you feel comfortable, I want to make sure that we're able to continually to work with the others that are waiting patiently. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Mayor, if you could just, send us the contact people so that we can get the process rolling.
Right, we'll be happy to do that. Although I think your staff has that, because I think you guys have been talking to them quite a while now. But we'll make sure that everyone is connected. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Vice Mayor, when we say Las Olas Isles, we're saying Las Olas Isles Association, those islands. In that
Correct. This is right. This project in front of us right now. This agenda item is basically Mola, Isle of Capri, Coconut Isle, Royal Plaza Drive, Fontana. It's the Las Olas Isles Civic Association, Isle of Palms. It's not coming east, and it's not Seven Isles. It's not. But for instance, Idlewild and Riviera, which originally were slated number 1, they've been waiting patiently, and have actually paid some money. So, again, this is just that Las Olas Isles Civic Association, not to be confused with all of the Las Olas Isles. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Now is the time for the public to speak. No one has signed up to speak. So would someone please like to move to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. And public hearing is now closed. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduce.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, relating to the provisions of the underground utility line facilities in the Las Olas Isles neighborhood, imposing underground utility line assessments against assessed property located in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving the assessment role, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. The final utility underground assessment rate for fiscal year 2021 will be $1,069.44 per equivalent building unit. Okay, we move on to public hearing 5. This is the public hearing on the Beach Business Improvement District non-ad valorem assessment. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the city's Beach Business Improvement District, the assessment for the fiscal year 2021. The public hearing is now open. The city manager will now present the Beach Business Improvement District non-ad valorem assessment.
The Beach Business Improvement District assessment imposes a fee on certain portions of beach property to establish funding to support services, facilities, and/or programs providing a special benefit to business properties and areas within the beach business boundaries. The fiscal year 2021 Beach Business Improvement District assessment rate is recommended at 0.8525 per $1,000 of assessed property value to generate approximately $1,065,639 in revenue. This concludes my report.
Okay, now's the time for anyone to speak or ask questions regarding the business beach bid. We have one person who signed up to speak, Ray Ford. Ray, are you there?
Don't see Ray.
No Ray? No Ray, Accord, last call. Okay, so someone please like to move to public hearing?
So moved.
Moved, do I hear a second?
Second, it's PA 6, right?
This is
Five.
Five. The
Five,
bid-
okay, all right,
The bid.
okay.
Okay, a motion to close the public hearing. Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trent House.
Yes, public hearing is now closed. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida relating to provision of beach business improvement services in a portion of the city, reimposing beach business improvement assessments against assessed property located within the assessment area for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020, establishing the rate of assessment, approving the assessment role, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas, Mayor Trent House.
Yes, the final beach business improvement district assessment rate will be 0.8525 per $1,000 value for each business property used for commercial purposes as provided in this resolution, which approved the beach business improvement district assessment. We move on to PH 6. This is the public hearing. Can you all hear me still okay?
It's better.
This is the public hearing on the fire assessment. Purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the city's fire assessment for fiscal year 2021. Public hearing is now open. The city manager will now present the fire assessment report. Mr. City Manager.
The Fire Assessment Program provides funding for fire suppression services, facilities, and programs that benefit the city in its entirety, such as fire facility improvements, equipment, and cost of operations to fund the city's fire services and facilities. The single-family residential assessment rate is recommended at $311 per year. Non-residential properties are assessed based upon building classification and square foot ranges. For fiscal year 2021, the proposed assessment is $49,336,308, which is estimated to generate $47,856,219 in revenue to the general fund. That concludes my report.
So just so everybody understands, this is a fee. When was the last time this was raised?
So this is the second year it's been at, would be at 311. It was 256 the year before that.
256. So we've actually brought it down.
No, it increased last. Yeah, it increased from 256 to 311 last year, and it would be, if approved tonight, 311 again for the next year.
When you say 256.
256. Did I say 356? 256.
Okay. So it's 311 last year, 311 this year.
Correct. And 256 before it went to 311.
Very good. And this covers fire suppression, such as fire facilities, equipment, cost of operation. Okay. So this is the time for anyone to speak in public. I have one person who has signed up to speak. Michelle Birdie Knapp, are you there? Michelle?
Hello, fabulous commission. Thank you so much for all that you're doing. Very much appreciated. My concern is over the way, and I know it's been done this way for a very long time. However, it has definitely started to become a real on my multi-unit property. That property has 8 units, and it is being assessed. The way that the assessment is assessed is per door. I have 8 units there. The whole property is only 2,394 square feet. So the composition of the units there are small efficiencies and studios. So I'm being assessed $311 per unit, the same as a unit at the Las Olas River House or the Icon that's 3 bedrooms, can house 6 people in it, and would be, could get $5,000 a month rent. Just similar to the way the woman was speaking earlier in reference to the water assessment. I can only increase these rents so much. I mean, how much can I really increase the rent on a tiny little efficiency? I'm getting probably about $750 a month for that. I'm really maxing out at that amount. In the past 7 years, my whole property tax burden on that property has gone up 250%. 250%. So I can't increase my rents to that amount to try to cover that kind of assessment. It doesn't make any sense. It's virtually impossible. In 2012, my fire rescue assessment was $135 per unit. Now the proposal is $311 per unit. Once again, it's per door on a 2,300 square foot property. My single family home that I have is 2,300 square feet. I have no problem paying $311 per year for that. But on a building like this, it really places this undue burden on somebody who's got small units like I do. And I just wondered if there's any possible way that there's a different way to look at this to be able to assess it in terms of perhaps square footage or something else. I don't know. I wish I had an answer. I'm just appealing to you to really take a look at what this means for somebody who's a small business owner. I don't have a high rise with 200 units in it, and I provide affordable housing. I have elderly, I have people on disability, I have first responders, I have students. I provide wonderful, clean, safe housing for people with lower incomes. And for my property tax burden to increase 36% every year, the maximum really I can get on average to increase my rents is 10% a year. And once again, on small units like that, how much can I really raise those rents? I really can't do it. So I'm asking if there's another way to possibly look at how this is assessed as opposed to a per door situation. Thank you very much for listening.
Mayor?
Just 1 second, please. Is there anyone else who is signed up to speak on this? I have nothing else. Can we just move to close public hearing first and then we can have discussion?
So moved.
Second.
We move in second. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. Yes, Vice Mayor.
Yes, and I just wanted to mention, when I received Dr. Bertie Knapp's email, I said, she makes such a good point, and I how can you not feel for a situation like that? And again, it harkens back to what we heard earlier with those kinds of cases. So I wanted to ask John and Chris, is this typical the way a fire assessment fee is done by just unit or home, where a small little efficiency would pay the same $311 as a mansion on the Isles or anywhere else? Is this a typical formula across the country that we are following? Thank you.
So Vice Mayor, this is John Herbst, and the answer is yes, this is a typical method, mostly because it's easy to apply, not because it's the most fair or equitable, because the whole idea with an assessment has to do with the benefit to the property. And you can make a legitimate argument that a more valuable property or a larger property benefits more than a smaller property. But from a implementation perspective, certainly it's just easier to do it that way.
Well, can I comment there, John? If we're talking about calls for service, I don't know whether a $1 million house or a neighborhood of $1 million houses has greater calls for service than areas that have smaller units like this. I don't know if there's been, a study done of which areas of the city have greater calls for service. I do know that our downtown fire stations has the highest number of calls for service in the nation, and it's not in $1 million neighborhood. So, in terms of calls for service and equipment, and how this equipment is utilized, I think it's a much more refined and subtle approach to assessment than just saying, well, it's easy to do it this way. And I don't know if it's just like anything that we've been doing, like the water, like the stormwater assessment. I mean, there's no simple, easy, equitable, fair way that is going to apply to everybody, but this is a methodology that was chosen, and I see that this particular Dr. Verdi Knapp is getting almost $6,000 a month in rent. So this costs $30 a month, which is a lot of money when you're charging $725 only for rent. So I mean there is an argument to be made. I'm not disputing that, but maybe we can reevaluate the methodology going in the future, where we look at calls for service, and maybe a certain area should be charged more than an other area if that's what we're looking to do based on calls for service. But I'm not sure that's really going to work in favor of the more working class neighborhoods, because my understanding is that.
So Mayor, you raised a couple. I apologize. So Mayor, you raised a couple of good points. I'll give you two examples, and I think there is never going to be any agreement on what is fair across the board. But I'll give you two examples. Stormwater is a very good one. So typically throughout the stormwater utility landscape, you'll find that they have almost always used the equivalent housing unit. And again, you could go in there and be much more sophisticated and look at the amount of impervious surface on a particular lot. So if I've got a 2-acre lot and I've got one house on it and I've got a swimming pool and a pond in the backyard, I absorb more of the storm water. I've got natural groundwater absorption. The swimming pool will hold a significant amount, but I charge the same amount as I would on a house that has 100% paved parking lot in the back. And we don't do that because it's simply too burdensome from an administrative perspective to go in there and try and evaluate every single parcel. Now, here's another example, though. If you look at a road paving assessment, we will actually take the cost of paving a road that's currently a dirt road. We will split that in half. We will charge the property owners on both sides of the street, and we will do it based on the lineal footage of their exposure to the road. So we will actually calculate it based on a very accurate methodology. But again, it all goes back to the concept of an assessment that it is to the benefit of the property. And you could argue a number of different methodologies about the benefit to the property. So if you have a large house, if you're in a 10,000 square foot house on the Isles, legitimately, I would expect that we would have more than one piece of fire apparatus that would respond to a structural fire there. Whereas if you're in a small 900 square foot cottage in Victoria Park, you're not going to have 3 hook and ladders show up. So the larger the house, the more likely it is that the actual cost to respond to that structural fire will be greater. But again, getting into those nuances and trying to figure out an appropriate across the board methodology, as we found out with stormwater, gets very difficult. And there are constituencies on both sides of that argument that will fight to defend their perspective on it. So there is no right. There's only depends on where you're sitting.
Chris, I have a question for Chris.
Yes.
Yes. Chris, why does the CAM say the city proposes a rate of $311 and then it says per single family residential property? That's confusing to a lot of people. You don't always see that language, especially when it applies to multifamily buildings and dwellings, or like Dr. Verdi Knapp's property. So why does it actually say that per single family residential property?
It's differentiated between single family, residential, and commercial based upon square footage. And it's, I
think
don't know
that's
that I have any
mean-
better
think that
answer than
needs to
that.
say per residential unit.
Laura's handing me something. Maybe she can just take it away.
Yeah, so this is Laura Reese, Budget Director. So in the resolution, there is non-residential property as well that is based on buildings square feet. So typically when we compare ourselves to other municipalities, it's based on the single family rate. And so you'll see an attachment in the chart that will show you where we are as compared to neighboring municipalities. So that's kind of what we index everything based on, but the non-residential actually is based on the building classification in square feet.
And I think what the vice mayor is saying is this isn't really an assessment per single family unit dwelling. It's like not per each house, it's per unit.
Per residential unit.
Yes.
It's per residential unit, not
Correct.
per house.
Correct.
Because if it's a 4-family house, then it's we charge 4 times.
Right.
So he's just saying we should clean up the language.
Correct.
It's a little confusing.
It may be based on how the ordinance is written, but we'll look to see if we can change that.
Yeah, and that's in the second paragraph under the background section in the CAM. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to look to
Okay,
because
is
it's
there any
driven by
further
several
discussion?
statutes and ordinances.
Okay, so would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Introduced. Call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida relating to the provision of fire rescue services, facilities, and programs in the city, establishing the rate of assessment, imposing fire rescue assessments against assessed properties located in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving the assessment rule, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman.
Again, requesting that we look at alternative formulas in the future. I will vote yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
No.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and I agree with the vice mayor. I always felt that this was a disproportionate tax. It should be more progressive. This is more regressive. I think it's unfair, especially on communities that can ill afford to pay the same amount that.
Mayor, this is John Herbst. Martin County performed a study on different methodologies for fire assessment. I'm going to go ahead and share that with the commission at some point so you can see what different approaches they took. One of which is what we just discussed, had to do with the value of the property. So I'll go ahead and I'll share that with you so we can consider this on a go-forward basis.
Okay, thank you. So the final fire assessment rate will be $311 annually for each residential property, and the final fire assessment rate for non-residential properties shall be as shown in the detailed rate schedule provided in the resolution approving the fire assessment. Moving on to PH 7. This is the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District final millage and budget. We must first approve the millage before we approve the budget. This is the second of 2 public hearings as required by law of the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement Budget and Millage for fiscal year 2021. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District's budget and to explain the budget and any amendments thereto. The public hearing is now open. The city manager will now present the final millage rate and final budget.
The Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District taxes the residents of the special district to provide security to the neighborhood. Their March 27, 2019 meeting, the district voted their millage at 1.0000 mil to generate a tax collection of $136,652 to support an operating budget of $110,000. This millage rate is 5.05% more than the rollback rate of 0.9519 mils and is necessary to maintain services for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood District. This concludes my report on Sunrise Key.
Thank you. This is time for anyone in the public to speak or to ask any questions regarding the budget. I have one person who signed up to speak, Francesca Giordano. Is Francesca Giordano on the line? She's not on the line.
I don't see that name.
Okay, do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
Moved.
Moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trent House.
Yes. So the final millage rate for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District purposes will be 1.000 mil, which represents an increase of 5.05% over the rollback rate of 0.09519 mils. Now, will someone introduce the resolution adopting the final budget for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District for fiscal year 2020?
Introduced.
Introduce, please call the roll.
No. So this will be for the millage, and this will be the resolution for the millage. We just closed the public hearing, I think.
Oh. Okay. Let me repeat that. All right, so will someone introduce a resolution adopting the final millage rate for Sunrise Key?
Introduce.
Introducing. Okay, thank you, Mr. McKenzie.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, adopting the final millage rate of 1 mil to be levied by the City of Fort Lauderdale for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020 and ending September 30, 2021. Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trent House.
Yes, and I apologize again, that was for the millage rate that's being assessed in the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District. Now will someone introduce a resolution adopting the final budget for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District for fiscal year 2021?
Introduce.
Introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution in the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, adopting the final budget of $110,000 for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District for fiscal year beginning on October 1, 2020 and ending September 30, 2021. Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trent House.
Yes, and that is approved. PH 8, this is the second of 2 public hearings as required by law on millage rates for fiscal year 2021. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the city's millage rate and to explain any amendments thereto. Public hearing is now open, and the city manager will now present the final millage rate on which fiscal year 2021 budget is based. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, the fiscal year 2021 City of Fort Lauderdale final budget includes maintaining the current millage rate of 4.1193 and decreasing the combined debt service millage from 0.2250 to 0.2218 mils. The recommended millage rate of 4.1193 exceeds the rolled back rate of 3.9565 by 4.115% and is premised upon the following: reducing the return on investment revenue to the general fund by 20.4 million or 100% since fiscal year 2018. Funding increases in wages and insurances, maintaining a healthy fund balance, funding key commission priorities and community investment plan projects. Increases to the fiscal year 2021 general fund budget that require maintaining the millage rate at the same rate as the prior 13 years include increase in contractual wage adjustments, 3.7 million, increase in information technology service charge, 2.0 million, increase in city health, disability, and life insurance, 1.1 million. Mayor, that completes my report.
Thank you. This is the time for anyone in the public to speak or ask any questions about the final millage rates. I have several people who have signed up to speak. I'll call, there are 4 people that have signed up, so I'll call all those names so they can each be ready. Jerry Bailey, Suzee Bailey, Tricia Halliday, and Paul Chettle. Jerry, are you on the line?
I am. So rather than make a statement and use my 3 minutes up, because it didn't seem to make much effect earlier, I'm just gonna ask you some questions if you could answer them, Dean, especially after you put out your statement earlier today. I mean, we know that because of the enormous sewer spills into our waters, we kind of never know from day to day if they're safe or not, especially right after a spill. So I would ask, relative to your comment earlier about an outside agency, are you going to be using an outside agency? Will it be Miami Waterkeepers? How often will they test? And most importantly, I think, is will it be an easy to find place that we can see the weekly tests? Because to me, it's a health issue. And just like COVID, you guys did a great job in putting the dashboard up. It took like one click and I know everything I want to know about COVID. How many positives, how many tests, da 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 da. If we could do the same thing for water quality testing, that would be awesome. So if you could just answer, who will be doing the testing, how often, and where can we find them? Thank you.
So I'll have the city manager respond to you. I think he knows those answers.
Yeah, so Jerry, I'll do the best I can for you tonight. I know our staff today was working with Miami Waterkeepers on defining a scope of work. If we're able to successfully do that and can get that item procured, it would take them roughly 30 to 60 days to begin the testing process. As far as how the results are available, I've heard anecdotally, and I believe it to be true, that they have easy to read, understand, and results out on an app or web page or something along those lines. We'll make it as easy as we can, but right now that's a up to the minute status. Until the commission takes action, there's no official moving forward with any specific group, but I can tell you we're working with that group today to work on a scope of work that hopefully will work for us and the community.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Suzee Bailey. Suzee, are you there? Do you have any additional questions?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, just quickly, hi again, and Mayor Trenthouse, I'm getting phone calls, text, emails. Everyone's asking for clarification, sort of like what Jerry was just asking about what you stated earlier. I just want to confirm what I heard, that, and thank you, Chris, for sort of confirming it. I know you can't completely confirm it, but I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, and hope I'm not moving too far ahead, but I'd like to gratefully speak for all the concerned voices that can't be heard tonight, but that have been sending in the numerous emails I think that y'all been getting and are hearing from, as well as myself, and say a thank you for all of you for caring for the health and safety of all who enjoy our priceless waterways. Weekly waterway testing with this well-respected Miami Waterkeepers marine specialist, they'll not only provide user-friendly test results for our health and safety, but their monitoring will also provide insightful information to begin the much-needed healing process for our precious waterways. And yes, Chris, it is a user-friendly, easy to find, easy to use app. It's with the Department of Healthy Beaches, the Florida Department of Healthy Beaches swim guide app. So again, I want to say thank you to all of you. I'm hoping again that this will be weekly testing, and that it will be because weekly testing is so important to get it right. I'm also hoping that it will be the 10 suggested sites. That way, everyone that lives in and around our area, all the different waterways, will be able to get test results in their area. And again, I knew you all cared, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you caring for our health and safety. Thanks.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for your faith in us. Trisha Halliday, are you on the line? Trish?
She's not.
She's not. Okay. And Paul Chettle, did you have any additional comments you'd like to add tonight? Paul?
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor.
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. I wanted to say that I heard your follow-up comments and the city manager's additional clarification, and I wanted to thank the both of you, and I wanted to thank Mrs. Bailey, and I yield the balance of my time. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Okay. I have no other people who've signed up to speak.
Move to close.
Move to close. I hear a second.
Second.
Seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trenthouse.
Yes, the public hearing is now closed. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Before we do that, I just want to make this statement. as a result of that, I just want to clarify the resolution. The recommended millage rate for all general city purposes exclusive of debt service will be 4.1193, represents a 4.115% increase in the millage rate over the rollback rate of 3.9565. So I know that sounds very confusing to people, but just in a nutshell, we have kept the same millage rate last year and over the last dozen years. So the millage rate has not increased. The recommended millage rate for debt service for the 2015 general obligation refunding bonds is 0.0259. The recommended millage rate for the debt service for the 2011A general obligation bonds is 0.0275. The tentative millage rate for debt service for the city's voter approved public safety bond, that's the police station, is 0.0936. And the tentative millage rate for debt service for the city's voter approved parks bond is 0.0748. So the resolution has now been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, adopting the final operating millage rate of 4.1193 and debt service millage rate of 0.2218 to be levied by the City of Fort Lauderdale for fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020 and ending September 30, 2021. Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes, yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. So the final millage rate has now been adopted for the City of Fort Lauderdale for the fiscal year 2021. We move on to PH 9, which is the last item on tonight's agenda. This is the second of two public hearings as required by law of the City of Fort Lauderdale budget fiscal year in 2021. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the city's budget and to explain the budget and any amendments thereto. Public hearing is now open. The city manager will now present the final budget. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, the fiscal year 2021 City of Fort Lauderdale final budget includes maintaining the current millage rate of 4.1193 and includes an annual fire assessment rate of $311 per single family residential unit. Final budget is premised on the following: reducing the return on investment revenue to the general fund by 20.4 million or 100% since fiscal year 2018. Funding increased contractual wage and insurance adjustments, maintaining a healthy fund balance, funding key commission priorities and community investment plan projects. There have been no adjustments to the fiscal year 2021 budget since the approval of the tentative budget on September 3rd, 2020. That concludes my report on the fiscal year 2021 final budget.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the time for anyone in the public to speak or ask questions regarding the budget. I have 3 people who have signed up to speak. I'll say all 3 names so you can be prepared, starting out with Charlie Kidd, followed by Melinda Boker, followed by Dennis Ulmer. Is Charlie Kidd there?
Yes.
Charlie.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Good evening. Welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I see the budget has a little over $4 million increase budgeted for the police over what was budgeted for them last year. So I oppose that increase, and I oppose any increase in the police budget because the people of Fort Lauderdale do not have oversight of the police. So I say oversight, I mean 3 things. I mean access to information, authority, and independence. So like, for example, if I'm a store owner and I have an employee who I have oversight of, that means I have information on what that employee is doing. I have the authority to discipline them if they do misconduct, and I have independence from them. So like they're not my cousin and I don't have a conflict of interest to kind of go easier on them. So in Fort Lauderdale, we have none of that. So we have a Citizens Police Review Board, but it does not have access to information. So the police don't have to share information with the board. It does not have the authority to discipline officers who do misconduct. And the board is not independent of police influence. In fact, the board has several police officers on the board, and the vice chair is a police officer. Not only that, In July, I saw several FLPD officers use their guns in a way that was dangerous and I believe a violation of use of force policy. I called the department to submit a complaint, and the sergeant I spoke with didn't let me finish my complaint. He didn't record it. He said that it was not a complaint, but an opinion. He falsely said that I didn't give him enough information to identify the incident. And when I asked to speak with the supervisor, he said, "This isn't Walmart. You can't." Now, that sergeant was Sergeant Matthew Mosseri, who's one of the 3 FLPD officers who's on our current Citizens Police Review Board. And if you Google him, you'll see that he's been accused of misconduct multiple times before. So y'all couldn't even find 3 officers with clean records who could pretend to take a citizen's complaint to be on a board that shouldn't have police officers anyway. Now, this lack of accountability isn't going to get solved by October 1st. It's not going to get solved by body cameras or trainings or an independent review. But what can happen before October 1st is you can pass a budget that doesn't give additional community funds to a police force that's unaccountable to the community. And if the police have a problem with that, if they say, well, we're not accountable to the people, but if we don't have this additional money, we can't keep the people safe. But that's not policing. That's a protection racket. So I don't want any additional community funds without community oversight of the police. Thank you.
So much. Melinda Boker, followed by Dennis Elmer. Is Melinda there? Melinda? Okay, is Dennis Ulmer there?
See Dennis.
Dennis?
I ask him to mute.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dennis.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, I'm Dennis Ulmer, a Fort Lauderdale property owner. I understand that to balance this budget because of funding shortfalls brought about in dealing with COVID-19, that city employees will not receive a 1.5 cost of living adjustment this year. Employees will continue to receive merit increases in their pay. I can't give employees more money, but I can give them my thanks. Who do we depend on when we have a sewer pipe or water main break? Our employees who sometimes in the past year worked endless hours to repair them and had to deal with multiple breaks at the same time. The city of Fort Lauderdale says we build community, and it's true. Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue transported a patient hit by a car to the hospital and learned his bicycle destroyed in the accident. It was his only transportation to work, so they presented him with a replacement bike. Just one example of our firefighters giving to our community. The Fort Lauderdale Police Department rescued a kangaroo hopping down our city street and took it to the horse barn until its owner could be located. The police department and the FOP provide Christmas gifts and school supplies and all the other things that they do. The IT and city clerk office, now with virtual meetings, all they have done to help us in dealing with the challenges of COVID-19. It's not bricks and mortar that make a great city. It's the people who do. I gave just a few examples of employees and their departments doing their jobs and much more. Without great city employees providing the services that we need and want, Fort Lauderdale could not be the great place to live, work, and play that it is. It's been my great pleasure to work with so many of you and assure that your talents and services are appreciated. As you can strive to continue to build community, you make our neighborhoods stronger. We have the assurance you are there to perform your job while doing so much more. Again, thank each and every one of you for all that you do for us. Always know that you are greatly valued and appreciated. Please share this sentiment with your fellow coworkers who may not be listening this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who signed up to speak? I don't have anything else. Someone move to close
Move to
public.
close.
Second,
Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glassman,
yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas.
Yes.
Introduce.
Not there yet. So, public hearing is now closed. The total of all funds budget for the city of Fort Lauderdale is $847,858,597, which will fund the various operations of the city of Fort Lauderdale for the fiscal period beginning October 1st, 2020 and ending September 30th, 2021. So just so that everyone understands, that's the general fund as well as the enterprise funds, separate projects that we're involved with, like park, all those others, the airport, and all those other funds. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager?
That is an all funds budget number,
This
yes.
is the all funds budget. So now, will someone introduce the resolution?
Introduce.
Okay.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, adopting the final budget of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020 and ending September 30, 2021, which includes the budget for the general fund, water and sewer central regional wastewater funds, debt service fund, self-insured health benefits fund, community redevelopment agency fund, sanitation fund, parking fund, building funds, central services fund, vehicle rental fund, city property and casualty insurance fund, stormwater fund, airport fund, housing and community development fund, project management fund, cemetery system fund, arts and science district garage fund, cemetery perpetual care fund, beach business improvement district fund, school crossing guard fund, nuisance abatement fund, Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District Fund, and police confiscation funds, adopting the final City of Fort Lauderdale personnel complement and the final enterprise fund return on investment policy for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020 and ending September 30, 2021, and providing an effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trent House.
Yes, and the budget is now approved. Any further business to the commission regarding budget? Questions?
Thank you all.
Sure, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Ew.
Happy birthday, Commissioner.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
The recording
Commissioner.
has stopped.
Party at Heather's house.
Happy birthday.
Birthday.
Party